Marley was dead, to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good for anything he chose to put his hand to. Old Marley was as dead as a doornail.
Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge. A squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. Hard and sharp as flint, secret and self-contained, and solitary as an oyster.
The cold within him froze his old features, nipped his pointed nose, shriveled his cheek, stiffened his gait, made his eyes red. His thin lips blew and spoke out shrewdly in his grating voice. A frosty rime was on his head and on his eyebrows and his wiry chin. He carried his own low temperature always about with him. He iced his office in the dog days and didn't thaw it 1 degree at Christmas.
Once upon a time, on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house. It was cold, bleak, biting weather, foggy withal, and he could hear the people in the court outside go wheezing up and down, beating their hands upon their breasts and stamping their feet upon the pavement stones to warm them.
While inside, by the meagre warmth of a single piece of coal burning in the grate, Scrooge and his miserable clerk, Bob Cratchit, worked away at their numbers, the icy cold gripping their bare, ungloved hands like the talons of an unmerciful and vengeful spirit.
Scrooge and Marley's, I believe. Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Mr. Marley has been dead these 7 years. He died 7 years ago this very night.
We have no doubt his generosity is well represented by his surviving partner.
You are optimistic in the extreme, madam.
At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, it's more than usually desirable.
Then we should make some provision for the poor and destitute.
Who suffer greatly at this present time.
Humbug!
Many thousands are in want of common necessaries.
Hundreds of thousands are in want of common comforts, sir.
Small children go about devoid of the meanest dignity.
It clear breaks your heart, sir.
Quite.
And it is a bitter cold Christmas this year, sir.
Are there no prisons?
Oh, plenty of prisons, sir.
And workhouses? Are they not still in operation?
Well, they are still. I wish I could say they were not.
Oh, I was afraid from what you said at first that something had occurred to stop them in their useful course. I'm very glad to hear of it.
On account of their scarcely furnishing cheer of mind or body to the multitude, sir, a few of us are endeavouring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth.
We choose this time because it is a time of all others when want is keenly felt and abundance rejoices.
What shall we put you down for?
Nothing.
Ah! You wish to remain anonymous?
I wish to be left alone. Since you ask me what I wish, sir, madam, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support those establishments I have mentioned. They cost enough, and those who are badly off must go there.
Well, many would rather die than go there.
Oh, then they had better die and decrease the surplus population.
If it should be any of my business.
It is not, madam, nor should it be. As to my own business, it occupies me constantly. Good afternoon to you both.
Come, Edwina, we've clearly wasted enough of our time here.
All too plainly, Archibald.
Merry Christmas, Uncle. God save you.
Humbug.
Christmas a humbug, Uncle. You don't mean that, I'm sure.
Oh, I do. Merry Christmas. What right have you to be merry? Oh, you're poor enough.
Come then, by that token, Uncle, what right have you to be so dismal or morose? You're rich enough.
Cynicism from one younger is bad enough. but from a female relative. God protect us.
Oh, Uncle.
Ah, humbug.
Why must you be so cross all the time, Uncle?
What else can I be when I live in such a world of fools as this? Merry Christmas. Out upon Merry Christmas. What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money? A time for finding yourself a year older and not an hour richer. If I could work my will, every idiot who goes around with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart.
Uncle.
Niece, keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine.
Keep it, but you don't keep it.
Oh, then let me leave it alone. Much good may it do you. Much good has it ever done you. Now, if you don't mind, I have work to do.
Very well, but my invitation, for what it's worth, still stands. To attend dinner at our humble abode tomorrow. You know, Uncle, Christmas dinner.
14 shillings and sixpence carry one, 9pence over and 2pence halfpenny ground rent makes...
Merry Christmas to you, Uncle Ebenezer, and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
A Merry Christmas.
Yes, and to you too, and your family.
Well, there's another one. Might have guessed. My clerk. 15 shillings a week and a wife and family and burbling away. A Merry Christmas. I may as well retire to Bedlam and be done with it all.
Carefully, quietly, so as not to disturb his employer, Scrooge's clerk, Bob Cratchit, slowly got to his feet to fetch his hat and coat from a peg. But it was too late.
You'll want all day tomorrow, I suppose?
If quite convenient, sir.
It is not convenient, and it is not fair. If I were to deduct half a crown from your wages, you'd think that was not fair, I'll be bound.
Mr. Scrooge.
And yet you don't think it is not fair that I have to pay you a day's holiday when you don't work.
It is only once a year, Mr. Scrooge.
A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. Oh, but I suppose if you must have the whole day, be here all the earlier the next morning.
I promise I will, sir. A Merry Christmas to you.
A merry lot of good that will do you. Christmas. Bah! Humbug! And be damned!
Scrooge took his melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern, and having read all the newspapers, went home to bed. He lived in chambers which had once belonged to his deceased partner.
They were a gloomy suite of rooms in a yard where it had so little business to be that one could scarcely help fancying it must have run there when it was a young house, playing at hide and seek with other houses, and forgotten the way out again.
Now, it is a fact there was nothing at all particular about the knocker on the door, except it was very large. It is also a fact that Scrooge had seen it night and morning during his whole residence at that place.
Let it also be borne in mind that Scrooge had not bestowed one thought on Marley, since his mention of his 7 years dead partner that afternoon.
And then let any man explain to me, if he can, how it happened that Scrooge, having his key in the lock of the door, saw in the knocker, not a knocker, but Marley's face.
Oh, it's him! It's Marley! Oh.
Marley's face. It was not angry or ferocious, but looked at Scrooge as Marley used to look, with ghostly spectacles turned up on its ghostly forehead. The hair was curiously stirred, as if by breath or hot air, and, though the eyes were wide open, they were perfectly motionless. That, and its livid colour, made it horrible. But its horror seemed to be in spite of the face, and beyond its control.
As Scrooge looked fixedly at this phenomenon, it was a knocker again.
But I could have sworn, well, just for a moment, it was him. Jacob Marley, 7 years dead this very night, come back to haunt me.
To say that he was not startled, or that his blood was not conscious of a terrible sensation to which it had been a stranger from infancy, would be untrue. But he put his hand upon the key, turned it sturdily, walked in, and lighted his candle.
It is unnaturally cold, if I do say so.
He did pause before he shut the door, and looked cautiously behind it first, as if he half expected to be terrified with the sight of Marley's pigtail sticking out into the hall. But there was nothing on the back of the door, except the screws and nuts that held the knocker on.
Oh, it's humbug. I must be imagining things.
He fastened the door and walked across the hall, and up the stairs, slowly too, trimming his candle as he went.
Sitting room, bedroom, lumber room, all as they should be. Nobody under the table, nobody under the sofa. A small fire in the grate, spoon and basin ready, and the little saucepan of gruel upon the hob. Nobody under the bed, nobody in the closet, nobody in my dressing gown. Old fire guards, old shoes, 2 fire baskets, washing stand on 3 legs, and a poker.
Quite satisfied, he closed his door and locked himself in. Double locked himself in, which was not his custom. He took off his cravat, put on his dressing gown and slippers, and his nightcap, and sat down before the fire to take his gruel.
It was a very low fire indeed, nothing on such a bitter night. He was obliged to sit close to it and brood over it before he could extract the least sensation of warmth from such a handful of fuel.
Oh, who needs more than 1 lump of coal when it gives out such heat as this? What was that? I have not seen that bell ring for years. 7 years at least. It is as if it was ringing for me. Jacob Marley. Here it comes, dragging its chains with it. No, no, please, no.
The cellar door flew open with a booming sound, and then he heard the noise much louder on the floors below. Then coming up the stairs, then coming straight towards his door.
It's humbug. I won't believe it.
His colour changed, though, when, without a pause, it came on through the heavy door and passed into the room before his eyes.
All grey, as if with dust it was, wrapped all around with great chains and cash boxes, its jaw tied tight with a dirty grey bandage.
I know him. It's Marley's ghost. Oh, now, listen, good spirit. What do you want with me?
Much.
Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Well, who were you then? You're very particular, I must say, for a spirit.
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
Oh, can you sit down?
I can.
Oh, do it then.
You don't believe in me?
I don't.
Why do you doubt your senses?
Well, because a little thing affects them. A slight disorder of the lower bowel makes them cheats. For all I know, you may be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, or a fragment of underdone potato. There's more of gravy than grave about you, whatever you are.
A joke? Do you depart of your senses entirely at seeing my spirit?
You do not catch me so unawares, sir. Stop this charade and announce your real identity at once, I beg of you.
What must I do to convince you of my true form?
At this the spirit raised a frightful cry and shook its chain with such a dismal and appalling noise that Scrooge held on tight to his chair to save himself from falling in a swoon. But how much greater was his horror when the phantom, taking off the bandage round its head, as if it were too warm to wear indoors, its lower jaw dropped down upon its breast.
At this, Scrooge fell upon his knees and clasped his hands before his face.
Mercy, dreadful apparition! Why do you trouble me?
O man of so much trouble, both worldly and gastric, do you believe in me or not?
Oh, I do. I am convinced. But why do spirits walk the earth? And why do they haunt me?
It is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk abroad among his fellow men and travel far and wide. And if that spirit goes forth not in life, it is condemned to do so after death. It is doomed to wander through the world. Oh, woe is me, and witness what I cannot share, but might have shared on earth and turned to happiness.
Jacob, old Jacob Marley, tell me more. Oh, speak comfort to me, Jacob.
I have none to give.
Oh, how miserable you must be. 7 years dead, and wandering all this time.
Is this sympathy I detect from you, or a sliver of undigested bacon? Pray tell.
Travelling all the time.
On the wings of the wind.
Oh, you must have covered a great deal of ground in 7 years.
Indeed, but let us not dwell on those times. This very night is of great importance, and you will mark it.
The anniversary of your death.
Christmas Eve.
Oh, no, not that. Not some tired Christmas lecture from you as well.
Listen! At this time of the rolling year, I do suffer the most. Why, I must walk through crowds of fellow beings with my eyes turned down, and never raise them to those starry skies where that one blessed star did lead the wise men to a poor abode.
Oh, do spare us the Christianity, sir, and pray come to the point.
Hear me, for my time is nearly done.
I will, but please, Jacob, not so flowery.
I am here to warn you that you have yet a chance and hope of escaping my fate. A chance and hope, Ebenezer Scrooge.
You always were a good friend to me, Jacob.
Tonight, you will be haunted by 3 spirits.
3? Would not 1 suffice?
Sadly, morosely, the spectre shook his head.
I think I had rather not.
Without their visits, you cannot hope to shun the path I tread. Expect the first tomorrow when the bell tolls 1.
Well, couldn't I take them all at once, Jacob, and have it over in one?
Expect the second on the next night at the same hour. The third upon the third night when the last stroke of 12 has ceased to vibrate. Look to see me no more, and look that, for your own sake, you remember what has passed between us.
And with this, the apparition faded out of Scrooge's vision and was gone, like fog upon a window pane.
Oh, bah! Humbug!
When Scrooge awoke, it was so dark that looking out of bed, he could scarcely distinguish the transparent window from the opaque walls of his chamber.
He was endeavouring to pierce the darkness with his ferret eyes when the chimes of a neighbouring church struck the 4 quarters. So he listened for the hour.
To his great astonishment, the heavy bell went on from 6 to 7, and from 7 to 8, and regularly up to 12, then stopped.
12. It was past 2 when he went to bed. The clock was wrong. An icicle must have got into the works.
Why, it isn't possible that I could have slept through a whole day and far into another night. It isn't possible that anything has happened to the sun, and this is 12 at noon.
The more he thought, the more perplexed he was, and the more he endeavoured not to think, the more he thought. Marley's ghost bothered him exceedingly.
Every time he resolved within himself that it was all a dream, his mind flew back again, like a strong spring released, and presented the same problem to be worked through. Was it a dream or not?
Scrooge lay in this state until the chimes had gone 3/4 more, when he remembered, on a sudden, that the ghost had warned him of a visitation when the bell tolled 1.
The hour itself, and nothing else.
Light flashed up in the room upon the instant, and the curtains of his bed were drawn.
And Scrooge found himself face to face with the unearthly visitor who drew them.
What are you?
It was a strange figure, like a child, yet not so like a child as like an old man, viewed through some supernatural medium.
Its hair, which hung about its neck and down its back, was white as if with age, and yet the face had not a wrinkle in it, and the tenderest bloom was on the skin.
But the strangest thing about it was that from the crown of its head there sprung a bright, clear jet of light, by which all this was visible.
Are you spirit, child, whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
Your past, Ebenezer.
And what business brings you here?
Your welfare.
Oh, thank you. I have no need of... What? My welfare? When a good night's sleep would have been sufficient?
Your reclamation, then. Take heed. Come, rise and walk with me.
The grasp, though gentle as a woman's hand, was not to be resisted. He rose, but finding that the spirit made towards the window, clasped his robe in supplication.
I am mortal and liable to fall.
As the words were spoken, they passed through the wall and stood upon an open country road with fields on either hand. The city had entirely vanished, not a vestige of it to be seen. The darkness and the mist had vanished with it, for it was a clear, cold winter day with snow upon the ground.
Good heavens! I know this place. I was a boy here.
Look around. It does not seem any different.
Oh, I know. It is exactly as I remember.
Your lip is trembling. What is that upon your cheek?
Oh, it is a pimple, nothing more. Down there's the old mill. Oh, and across that way is the schoolhouse.
You recollect the way?
Oh, I could walk it blindfold, though as a boy I would so often dread it.
Strange, then, to have not recalled it for so many years. Come, let us go that way.
So, this is the schoolhouse. It seems so small.
You were not so big yourself then. Look.
Scrooge peered through the dirty windows of the schoolhouse and saw a young boy sat upon the hard wooden benches of a miserable and gloomy schoolroom.
All alone, he was reading a book, not once glancing up at the world around him.
But who is this solitary child?
Why, this is... that is me. I say, hello, young man.
He cannot hear you. He is but a shadow of things that have been. He has no consciousness of us.
So, this is how I appeared to the world, was it? Oh, but see what a diligent child I was, not content with gallivanting about. A Merry Christmas to all and sundry.
Deserted by his friends. He sits alone.
No, he is... I was merely determined to stay behind and complete my studies, that's all. Oh, is it possible? My sister? But she doesn't look a day over...
Shh! Dear Brother Ebenezer!
Why, little Fan, what brings you here?
To bring you home, of course.
Home?
Yes, home, forever and ever. Father is so much kinder than he used to be. He spoke so gently to me one night when I was going to bed that I was not afraid to ask him if you were coming home, and he said you would be, So he sent me here by coach to bring you home, Ebenezer. So come along. We're to be together all Christmas and have the merriest time in the world.
You're quite a woman, little Fan.
You cannot stay here now, silly, can you? Where is everyone anyway?
I don't know. None of them ever wish to stay to finish their work.
More likely they have gone home for the holidays, and very sensible they are too. Now come along.
I cannot. I must stay to finish my work.
Very well then. If you must be so determined, I shall go home without you.
Oh, why did I not go with her?
Who can say? Look into that boy's head and find the answer if you can.
I cannot remember. Did home mean so little to me then?
Only you can say, Ebenezer.
She looked so young and beautiful, didn't she? To think I hardly ever saw her after that.
You may have if you had chosen to. She had children, I believe.
One child?
Your niece.
Yes. Still, there was never anything wrong with hard work.
While the others rushed home for their Christmas festivities?
Ah, but look where I ended up. Hard work has made a rich man of me, hasn't it?
A rich man, yes. But a happy one?
Happy? But of course I wanted... where is he? I mean, where was I going?
Let us find out.
They were now in the busy thoroughfares of a city, where shadowy passengers passed and repassed, where shadowy carts and coaches battled for the way. It was made plain enough by the dressing of the shops that here too it was Christmas time again. But it was evening, for the streets were lighted up.
Where are you taking me now?
At this, the ghost stopped at a certain warehouse door and then asked Scrooge if he knew it.
Knew it? Oh, why, I was apprenticed here.
They went in. At sight of an old gentleman in a Welsh wig sitting behind such a high desk that if he had been 2 inches taller, he must have knocked his head against the ceiling, Scrooge cried in great excitement.
Oh, why, it's old Fezziwig. Bless his heart, each Fezziwig alive again.
Old Fezziwig laid down his pen and looked up at the clock, which pointed to the hour of 7. He rubbed his hands, adjusted his capacious waistcoat, and laughed all over himself.
Ho, 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 yo-ho there, Ebenezer! Dick, yo-ho, my boys! No more work tonight. Christmas Eve, Dick. Christmas, Ebenezer. Cheer him up, Lillian, will you? For goodness sake. It's like he's seen a ghost.
Ebenezer, please. Just a little smile. It's Christmas.
Christmas is a humbug, if I do say so.
Surely you jest, dear Ebenezer.
I say, let's have the victuals out, my dear, and don't spare the spirits, what? For you can say Jack Robinson will have this company roaring.
Very well, Mr. Fezziwig, provided I may have the honour of the first dance.
Mrs. Fezziwig, you may have the dubious honour of the 2nd, 3rd and 4th if it pleases you so, but then there's more than enough of you to go around the room 100 times, eh?
Oh, you are a devil, Mr. F. Fiddler, music, please.
Will you dance, Ebenezer?
Must you ask me to dance? Is that not improper?
Oh, the deuce take you. It's Christmas Eve, Ebenezer.
Very well, but I shall not dance for long.
Then I shall dance with someone else.
Lillian.
Was I always so particular?
Too often, I fear.
There, you see. Oh, that's it. Young Ebenezer, don't let her go so easily.
Watch.
I'm sorry, Lil. I did not mean to. Will you dance with me?
I thought you'd never ask.
Another round of that one, fiddler. Double time.
Then old Fezziwig stood out to dance with Mrs. Fezziwig. As to her, she was worthy to be his partner in every sense of the term. If that's not high praise, tell me higher, and I'll use it. A positive light appeared to issue from Fezziwig's calves. They shone in every part of the dance like moons.
And when old Fezziwig and Mrs. Fezziwig had gone all through the dance, they took their stations, one on either side of the door, and shaking hands with every person individually as he or she went out, wished him or her a Merry Christmas.
Oh, it's marvellous. I have never seen such dancing.
And there you are, your younger self, I mean, sat out of the dance, and content only to watch.
What is wrong with that? I was a man with the ambition to be a wealthy businessman, not a dancer.
I just draw it to your attention.
But during the whole of this time, the elder Scrooge acted like a man out of his wits. His heart and soul were in the scene, and with his former self. He remembered everything, enjoyed everything, and underwent the strangest agitation.
It was not until the dancing had ended that he remembered the ghost and became conscious that it was looking full upon him, while the light upon its head burnt very clear.
Oh, look at old Fezziwig, the life and soul of the party. It's as if he were still alive and larger than life than ever. So much happiness followed him too.
For so small an expenditure.
Small?
He's spent but a tiny sum compared with your own wealth, Scrooge. A few pounds only. And look at what he has done with it.
Yes. And the happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost him a fortune. As if he...
What is the matter?
Nothing in particular.
Something, I think.
No. I should like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk just now, that's all.
My time grows short. Watch.
Back into the other room, everyone. There's repast in there enough to feed 5,000.
And enough drink to sluice the Orgean stables, what? To it, boys and girls?
Are you hungry, Ebenezer? Would you care to sit with me?
Wait, I should like... I would wish...
What is it?
I would...
As I expected. You have not even the heart to tell me honestly.
Lillian.
It matters little. To you, very little. Something has displaced me in your eyes, and if it can cheer and comfort you in times to come, as I might have done, then so be it.
What are you saying has displaced you?
Something far more golden than I.
Such is the way of the world. Would you have me live in poverty? And yet you would condemn me for my pursuit of wealth.
You fear the world too much, Ebenezer, and money will not keep at bay all the unhappinesses of the world forever. Yet I have seen all your passions wither away until all that remains is gain. Now gain engrosses you, Ebenezer, though not the spiritual kind. You seek only for wealth, and there is little place for me in your scheme of things.
So I have grown much wiser. What then?
Yes, you have grown, but not wiser. And the man you once were, why, even he that once I loved, he is gone. And so I must release you, with a full heart, for the love of him you once were.
Oh, to stop! Make it stop!
You may. The memory of what is past half makes me hope you will. Have pain in this. A very brief time, and you will dismiss the recollection of it, gladly, as an unprofitable dream from which it happened well that you awoke. May you be happy in the life you have chosen.
Oh, don't let her go, you fool! Stop her! Oh, stop her, I say!
I cannot. What's done is done, Ebenezer.
Oh, Spirit, remove me from this place.
These were but shadows of things that have been. That they are what they are. Do not blame me.
Remove me. I cannot bear it. Spirit, don't show me no more. Conduct me home. Why do you delight to torture me?
And at this, Scrooge seized an extinguisher cap, and by a sudden action pressed it down upon the spirit's fiery head.
The spirit dropped beneath it, so that the extinguisher covered its form. But though Scrooge pressed it down with all his force, he could not hide the light, which streamed from under it in an unbroken flood upon the ground.
There, and be done with you, ghost of Christmas past. Christmas long gone and dead, farewell, and haunt me no more.
Conscious of being exhausted and overcome by an irresistible drowsiness and, further, of being in his own bedroom, he had barely time to reel to bed before he sank into a heavy sleep.
Awakening in the middle of a prodigiously tough snore and sitting up in bed to get his thoughts together, Scrooge had no occasion to be told that the bell was again upon the stroke of one.
Where am I? What's happening? What time is it? Here? The next spirit. Show yourself, I say.
He got up softly and shuffled in his slippers to the door.
Ebenezer Scrooge, enter and look upon me.
Who's in my room?
It was his own room. There was no doubt about that. But it had undergone a surprising transformation.
The walls and ceiling were so hung with living green that it looked a perfect grove, from every part of which bright, gleaming berries glistened.
The crisp leaves of holly, mistletoe, and ivy reflected back the light, as if so many little mirrors had been scattered there.
Heaped up on the floor to form a kind of throne were turkeys, geese, game, poultry, brawn, great joints of meat,
Sucking pigs, long wreaths of sausages, mince pies, plum puddings, barrels of oysters, red-hot chestnuts.
And seething bowls of punch that made the chamber dim with their delicious steam.
In easy state upon this couch, there sat a jolly giant, glorious to see, who bore a glowing torch in shape not unlike Plenty's horn,
And held it up, high up, to shed its light on Scrooge as he came peeping round the door.
Approach, approach, and know me better, man. I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me. You've never seen the like of me before.
Oh, never.
I've never seen my many incarnations at Christmas time.
I don't know what you're talking about. And if I did, I wouldn't tell you. Oh, just conduct me where you will, spirit, and be quick about it. My impatience at these visitation wears thin, I tell you.
But did you learn nothing from the visitation of my brother, the spirit Christmas past?
Well, what if I learned anything? I went last night on a compulsion. If you have something to teach me, then let me profit by it.
Profit by it, eh? Then touch my robe.
Why, I know these people. They inhabit the same street as I.
Of course. We are just outside your own door.
Now, why do you show me my own neighbours?
Because you've never really noticed them before. Now listen to what they have to say.
You'll not see him all day, I tell you, for he never leaves his house at Christmas.
What, not at all? Oh, how sad that is.
Sad? Sad? You have no idea. It's not sad. Go out into the cold weather when I could spend the day perfectly warm indoors?
And they say he never lights the fire.
Ghost, why do they not react to me? I say, you there? I'm standing right in front of you. Can't you see me, woman?
Well, you rarely see smoke in the chimney at any rate.
There you're wrong, you see. For I have at least one piece of coal burning each day. If you can't see the smoke, then you're not looking properly.
Are you sure it is them who are not looking properly?
Oh, let's not depress ourselves with chatter about that old miser.
No, let's run up to the park and throw snowballs.
Or eat chestnuts.
Or build a snowman.
Yes,
come on,
let's go.
Why could they not see or hear me?
We are invisible to them. But did you not hear what they had to say?
Oh, they cannot conceive of it, of course. If I choose to spend Christmas Day a certain way, then that is my choice.
Certainly. But then, let us see how one particular family spend theirs.
Where are you taking me?
Not far.
And perhaps it was the pleasure the good spirit had in showing off this power of hers, or else it was her own kind, generous, hearty nature and her sympathy with all poor men that led her straight to Scrooge's clerks.
For there she went, and took Scrooge with her, holding to her robe. And on the threshold of the door the spirit smiled, and stopped to bless Bob Cratchit's dwelling with the sprinkling of her torch.
Think of that. Bob had but 15 bob a week himself, and yet the ghost of Christmas present blessed his 4-roomed house.
Why, this is my clerk's house. Oh, this must be his wife then, Mrs. Cratchit. And their children. I say there must be 5 or 6 of them. But what are they all doing bustling around the kitchen? Do they have no servant to prepare their meal?
In this household? Oh, you are a very silly Scroogey. And anyway, it's Christmas Day. All the children want to help upon Christmas Day.
Christmas Day, eh? Oh, is that roasting potatoes I can smell?
Shh! Listen.
Now, whatever could have kept your precious father, dear Peter, and your brother, Tiny Tim? I swear your father's carrying that brother of yours everywhere, wears him out completely.
Don't fret, Mother. They won't be long, you'll see.
Not to mention your sister Martha, who has never been so late on Christmas Day.
Oh, she said she'd fetch the goose, Mother, remember? Or perhaps she'd been kept on at the workhouse for another hour.
Well, if they're not here soon, the dinner will be quite ruined.
See what I have here. Belinda, Mother.
Look, Mother!
Why, it's enormous. Certainly the largest goose I ever did see, and that's saying something. Why, bless your heart alive, Martha, my dear, how late you are. Well, never mind, so long as you are come. Here, sit you down by the fire, won't you, and have a warm, Lord bless you.
And in came little Bob, the father, with his threadbare clothes darned up and brushed to look seasonable, and Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Alas, for Tiny Tim, he bore a little crutch, and had his limbs supported by an iron frame.
Well, here we are, Mother. The father and the son.
Come in, come in. Oh, you'll catch your deaths, the pair of you.
Hello, Mother.
Oh, Tim, you're half frozen. Here, warm yourself up. Go on.
And before another word was spoken, Tiny Tim was escorted by his brother and sister to his stool before the fire.
I never knew of Tiny Tim. Bob Cratchit has not mentioned him to me before. Are his legs very weak, good spirit?
I fear he should die if it were not for the love and care of his mother and father. But why should your clerk have mentioned this to you before?
Perhaps he feared I should not care to know.
Perhaps.
And how did Tim behave himself today?
As good as gold, as usual. I do believe the pain has eased a little today.
That's because it's Christmas, Father.
True enough. And I know of another means of easing pain. The pain of an empty stomach, that is. And that is to line it with a good repast. Am I right, Mother?
Oh, well, then it's lucky I have such like right here. Come on, gather you round.
Such a bustle ensued that you might have thought a goose the rarest of all birds.
Mrs. Cratchit made the gravy, hissing hot.
Master Peter mashed the potatoes with incredible vigour.
Miss Belinda sweetened up the apple sauce.
Martha dusted the hot plates.
Bob took Tiny Tim beside him in a tiny corner at the table.
The two young Cratchits set chairs for everybody, not forgetting themselves, and mounting guard upon their posts, crammed spoons into their mouths. lest they should shriek for goose before their turn came to be helped.
At last the dishes were set on, and grace was said. It was succeeded by a breathless pause, as Mrs. Cratchit, looking slowly all along the carving knife, prepared to plunge it into the breast. And when she did, and when those long-expected gush of stuffing issued forth, one murmur of delight arose all round the board.
Ooh. And even Tiny Tim, excited by the two young Cratchits, beat on the table with the handle of his knife.
Hurrah!
A Merry Christmas to us all, dears. God bless us.
God bless us, everyone.
Spirit, tell me if Tiny Tim will live.
I see a vacant seat in the corner and a crutch without an owner carefully preserved. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will surely die.
Oh, no, kind spirit. Say he will be saved.
If he be like to die, then he had better do it and decrease the surplus population.
Mr. Scrooge, I give you Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast.
Oh, the founder of the feast, indeed! Oh, I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast upon. Oh, and I hope he'd have a good appetite for it.
My dear, the children, Christmas Day.
Oh, it should be Christmas Day, I am sure, on which one drinks the health of such an odious, stingy, hard, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge. You know he is, Robert. Why, you're always saying it yourself. Nobody knows it better than you do, poor fellow.
My dear, Christmas Day.
Very well. I'll drink his health for your sake, and the day's not for his. Long life to him, a Merry Christmas, and an Happy New Year. He'll be very merry and very happy, I have no doubt.
To Mr. Scrooge.
Why do you show me these things?
Oh, in hope, Ebenezer.
In hope that I may show charity towards a man and his family to whom I have never shown such warmth, I suppose.
I could not have put it better myself.
Well, what next? If I am to remain in such regretful vein, what next?
Patience, Scroogey. I ask you merely to look around.
And what? At a cold Christmas day?
Look carefully.
As if by magical cause, Scrooge suddenly found himself looking through the walls of the house of his niece, Frederica's, walls made transparent like smoked glass.
Whereupon he saw a party of her friends gathered for the very Christmas dinner to which she invited him year in, year out.
Yes, and he said that Christmas was a humbug. He did, as I live, and he believed it too.
More shame on him, Frederica.
Oh, he's a comical old fellow, that's the truth, and not so unpleasant as he might be.
I'm sure he's very rich, Freddie. At least you always tell me so.
Well, what of that, my dear? His wealth is of no use to him whatsoever. He doesn't do any good with it. He doesn't make himself comfortable with it. He hasn't the satisfaction of thinking that he's ever going to benefit us with it.
I have no patience with him.
Me neither.
Oh, I have. Despite everything, I'm sorry for him, really. I couldn't be angry with him if I tried. Who suffers by his ill wishes? Only himself. Why, he takes it into his head to so dislike jovial company as ourselves that he won't even come and dine here. And what's the consequence of that?
He doesn't lose much of a dinner.
Oh, indeed. I think he loses a very good dinner and some most amiable company.
Now you're being impossibly charming, Mr. Topper.
Oh, quite possibly, yes.
And flattering beyond the call of duty.
It is Christmas, after all. Oh, enough chatter about Freddie's intolerable Uncle Ebenezer. How about some games?
I say, now you're talking. Blind man's buff, anyone?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Oh, let's do.
Oh, an excellent game. Remember it well from my youth.
Would you rather not be there? Join in their games?
What? And give them the pleasure of my company?
Why not?
Yes.
I should like to join her and her guests, but I refused her invitation. It is done. I can have no regrets. Oh, but still, I should like to have been there.
And heard what they had to say about you?
Well, they wouldn't have said those things if I were there.
Perhaps.
Oh, be done with it. Me? Join in a game of blind man's buff? Where are you going?
My time is nearly done. I must be gone.
Are our spirits' lives so short?
My life upon this globe is very brief. It ends tonight.
Tonight? Oh, wait! Just one moment, please. Forgive me, but I see something strange protruding from your robes. Is it a foot or a claw?
From the foldings of its robe, the spirit brought 2 children. Wretched, abject, frightful, hideous, miserable. They knelt down at its feet and clung upon the outside of its garment.
Oh, man, look here. Look down here.
They were a boy and a girl, yellow, meagre, ragged, scowling, wolfish, but prostrate too in their humility.
Where graceful youth should have built their features out and touched them with its freshest tints.
A stale and shriveled hand, like that of age, had pinched and twisted them and pulled them into shreds.
What are they? I think they are children. Yes, good, kind children. Oh, but they seem so...
Scrooge started back, appalled when he saw them look up at him, pleading with their eyes for his help.
Spirit, are they yours?
They are man's. This boy is ignorance. This girl is want. Beware them both, but most of all, beware this boy, for on his brow I see that written which is doom. Unless the writing be erased, deny it.
Oh, have they no refuge or resources?
Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses?
The bell struck 12. Scrooge looked about him for the ghost, and saw it not.
As the last stroke ceased to vibrate, he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes, beheld a solemn phantom, draped and hooded.
Coming like a mist along the ground towards him.
No! I do not wish to see my future. Show me it not, I pray you.
But still the phantom slowly, gravely, silently approached. When it came, Scrooge bent down upon his knee.
For in the very air through which this spirit moved, it seemed to scatter gloom and mystery.
No, I beg you.
It was shrouded in a deep black garment, which concealed its head, its face, its form, and left nothing of it visible save one outstretched hand.
But for this, it would have been difficult to detach its figure from the night and separate it from the darkness by which it was surrounded.
I am in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come?
The spirit answered not, but pointed downward with its hand.
You are about to show me shadows of things that have not happened, but will happen in the time before us. Is that not so, Spirit?
The upper portion of the garment was contracted for an instant in its folds, as if the spirit had inclined its head.
That was the only answer he received.
Oh, ghost of the future, I fear you more than any spectre I have seen. But as I know your purpose is to do me good, and as I hope to live to be another man from what I was, I am prepared to bear your company and do it with a thankful heart. Will you not speak to me?
It gave him no reply. The hand was pointed straight before them.
Lead on, lead on. The night is waning fast, and it is precious time to me, I know. Lead on, Spirit.
The phantom moved away as it had come towards him. Scrooge followed in the shadow of its dress, which bore him up, he thought, and carried him along.
They scarcely seemed to enter the city, for the city rather seemed to spring up about them and encompass them of its own act.
But there they were, in the heart of it, amongst the merchants, who hurried up and down and chinked the money in their pockets and conversed in groups and looked at their watches as Scrooge had seen them often.
The spirit stopped beside one little knot of businessmen. Observing that the hand was pointed to them, Scrooge advanced to listen to their talk.
No, I don't know much about it either way. I only know he's dead.
Oh, when did he die?
Last night, I believe.
Why? What was the matter with him?
God only knows.
I thought he'd never die.
That's what they were all saying.
What has he done with his money?
I haven't heard. He hasn't left it to me, that's all I know.
His debtors are well pleased. They say he left behind a large estate.
Is that so? Well, he can't take it with him, can he?
Of whom do they speak? Why do they not name him?
It's likely to be a very cheap funeral, for upon my life, I don't know anybody likely to go to it.
Imagine if nobody showed up.
He wouldn't have cared.
Perhaps we ought to make up a party and volunteer.
I don't mind going if a lunch is provided, but I must be fed, or else what's the point in going?
Spirit, of whom do they speak? I know these men, and the case of this unhappy man might be my very own. My life tends that way as it is. Merciful heaven, where are we going now?
But the ghost answered not, merely conducted him through several streets familiar to his feet, and as they went along, Scrooge looked here and there to find himself, but nowhere was he to be seen.
They entered poor Bob Cratchit's house, the dwelling he had visited before, and found the mother and the children seated round the fire.
Quiet, very quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were as still as statues in one corner, and sat looking up at Peter, who had a book before him.
The mother and her daughters were engaged in sewing. But surely they were very quiet. The mother laid her work upon the table and put her hand up to her face.
The colour hurts my eyes. It makes them weak by candlelight, and I wouldn't show weak eyes to your father when he comes home for the world. It must be near his time.
Past it, rather, but I think he's walked a little slower than he used these last few evenings, Mother.
They were very quiet again. At last she said, and in a steady, cheerful voice that only faltered once,
I've known him walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder very fast indeed.
So have I, often.
But he was so very light to carry, and his father loved him so that it was no trouble. No trouble.
Spectre, of whom do they speak? Not the boy. Oh, please, let it not be the boy. Bob, it is I, Ebenezer Scrooge. Tell me that it's not true, that you could have allowed Tiny Tim to die.
Oh, my Tim. My Tiny Tim.
He cannot hear me. Oh, why do you show me this? Tell me, is this something that will happen, come what may, or could it yet be prevented?
The spirit was silent. The hand was pointed elsewhere.
No, the Cratchit's house is yonder. Why do you point that way?
the inexorable finger underwent no change.
My counting house? Why do you point there?
Scrooge hastened to the window of his office and looked in. It was an office still, but not his.
The furniture was not the same, and the figure in the chair was not himself. The phantom pointed as before.
Well, who is that man? Why has he taken my chair?
And still the spirit pointed at a churchyard, walled in by houses, overrun by grass and weeds, the growth of vegetation's death, not life.
Please, oh, not there.
But the spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one of its headstones. Scrooge advanced towards it, trembling.
The phantom was exactly as it had been, but he dreaded that he saw new meaning in its solemn shape.
Oh, before I draw nearer to that stone to which you point, answer me one question. Are these the shadows of the things that will be, or are they shadows of things that may be only?
Still the ghost pointed downward to the grave by which it stood.
Men's courses will foreshadow certain ends, to which, if persevered in, they must lead. But if the courses be departed from, the ends will change. Say it is thus with what you show me.
The spirit was immovable as ever.
Scrooge crept towards it, trembling as he went, and following the finger, read upon the stone of the neglected grave his own name.
Ebenezer Scrooge.
Oh, no, Spirit, no, Spirit, hear me. I am not the man I was. I will not be the man I must have been. Why show me this, if I am past all hope? Good Spirit, assure me that I yet may change these shadows you have shown me by an altered life. I will honour Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach. Oh, tell me that I may sponge away the writing on this stone.
In his agony, he caught the spectral hand.
It sought to free itself, but he was strong in his entreaty and detained it.
The spirit, stronger, yet repulsed him.
Help! Help me, please! No!
Holding up his hands in a last prayer to have his fate reversed, he saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress.
It shrunk, collapsed and dwindled down into a bedpost.
Yes! And the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own. The room was his own.
Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own, to make amends in.
Oh, I will live in the past, the present, and the future.
Scrooge repeated as he scrambled out of bed.
The spirits of all three shall strive within me. Oh, Jacob Marley, heaven and Christmas time be praised for this. I'd say it on my knees, old Jacob, on my knees. I don't know what to do. I am light as a feather. I am happy as an angel. I am as merry as a schoolboy. I am as giddy as a drunken man. A Merry Christmas to everybody. A Happy New Year to all the world. Hello there. Hello.
He'd frisked into the sitting room and was now standing there, perfectly winded.
There's the saucepan that the gruel was in, and there is the door by which the ghost of Jacob Marley entered. There's the corner where the ghost of Christmas present sat. Oh, it's all right. It's all true. It all happened.
Really, for a man who had been out of practice for so many years, it was a splendid laugh, a most illustrious laugh.
The father of a long, long line of brilliant laughs.
I don't know what day of the month it is. I don't know how long I've been among the spirits. I don't know anything. Oh, I'm quite a baby. Oh, never mind. I don't care. I'd rather be a baby. Hello! Hello there!
Running to the window, Scrooge opened it and put out his head.
No fog, no mist. Clear, bright, jovial, stirring cold. Golden sunlight.
Heavenly sky, sweet, fresh air, merry bells. Oh, glorious, glorious.
Oh, I say, you boy, you down there, what's today?
Eh?
What's today, my fine fellow?
Today? What, Christmas Day?
Oh, it's Christmas Day. I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night. Oh, well, they can do anything they like. Of course they can. Of course they can. Oh, do you know the poulterers in the next street but one, at the corner?
I should hope I did.
Oh, an intelligent boy, a remarkable boy. Do you know whether they've sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there? Oh, not the little prize turkey, the big one.
What, the one as big as me?
Oh, what a delightful boy. It's a pleasure to talk to him. Yes, the one as big as you.
Oh, it's hanging there now.
Is it? Oh, well, go now and buy it.
So alarmed was the boy that Scrooge might be out of his wits and meant to do him some harm, he began to look around for assistance.
Beadle!
No. I am in earnest. Go and buy it and tell them to bring it here that I may give them the direction where to take it. Come back with the turkey and I'll give you a shilling. Come back with it in less than 5 minutes and I'll give you half a crown.
The boy was off like a shot.
I'll send it to Bob Cratchit. He shan't know who sends it. Oh, it's twice the size of Tiny Tim.
The hand in which he wrote the address was not a steady one, but write it he did, somehow, and went downstairs to open the street door, ready for the coming of the poulterer's man.
As he stood there, waiting his arrival, the knocker caught his eye.
I shall love it as long as I live. I scarcely ever looked at it before. Oh, what an honest expression it has on its face. It's a wonderful knocker. Oh, here's the turkey. Oh, my, it's quite enormous. How are you, sir? Merry Christmas. Oh, why, it's impossible to carry that to Camden Town. You must have a cab.
The chuckle with which he said this, and the chuckle with which he paid for the turkey, and the chuckle with which he paid for the cab, and the chuckle with which he recompensed the boy were only to be exceeded by the chuckle with which he walked on through the snowy streets, shouting a Merry Christmas to all those he passed.
A Merry Christmas to one and all.
He had not gone far when, coming on towards him, he beheld the charity collectors who had walked into his counting house the day before and said, "Scrooge and Marley's, I believe."
It sent a pang across his heart to think how this pair would look upon him when they met, but he knew what path lay straight before him, and he took it.
Ah, those generous benefactors of the poor. Let me shake your hands, sir, madam. You have your collecting box with you, I take it?
Indeed. We never go anywhere without it.
Show him, Archibald.
Oh, here, let me divest myself of some loose change.
With that, he removed from his person a bag containing all of his silver and thrust it into the hands of the startled lady and gentleman.
Loose change!
And a Merry Christmas to you both.
He went to church and walked about the streets and watched the people hurrying to and fro and patted children on the head and questioned beggars and looked down into the kitchens of houses and up to the windows and found that everything could yield him pleasure.
He had never dreamed that any walk, that anything could give him so much happiness.
In the afternoon, he turned his steps towards his niece's house.
Oh, dare I go in? What shall she say to me after all this time?
He passed the door a dozen times before he had the courage to go up and knock, but he made a dash and did it.
Frederica?
Dear heart alive, how his niece started.
Why, bless my soul, who's that?
It is I, your Uncle Scrooge. I have come to dinner. Will you let me in, Frederica?
Let him in. It's a mercy she didn't shake his arm off.
Oh.
He was at home in 5 minutes. Nothing could be heartier. His niece looked just the same.
So did Mr. Topper when he came. So did the plump sister when she came. So did everyone when they came.
Wonderful party, wonderful games, wonderful unanimity, wonderful happiness.
But he was early at the office next morning. Oh, he was early there. If he could only be there first and catch Bob Cratchit coming late, that was the thing he had set his heart upon.
And he did it. Yes, he did. The clock struck 9. No Bob. 1:15. No Bob. He was a full 18 minutes and a half behind his time.
Scrooge sat with his door wide open, that he might see him come in.
His hat was off before he opened the door. His comforter too. He was on his stool in a jiffy, driving away with his pen as if he were trying to overtake 9 o'clock.
Well, What do you mean by coming here at this time of day?
I'm very sorry, sir. I am behind my time.
Yes, I think you are. Step this way, if you please.
It's only once a year, sir. It shall not be repeated. I was making rather merry yesterday, sir.
Now, I'll tell you what, my friend, I am not going to stand this sort of thing any longer, and therefore, I am about to raise your salary.
Mr. Scrooge!
A Merry Christmas, Bob. A merrier Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, than I have given you for many a year. I'll raise your salary and endeavour to assist your struggling family. And we will discuss your affairs this very afternoon. Oh, and buy another coal scuttle before you dot another I, Bob Cratchit.
Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all, and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father.
He became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world.
Some people laughed to see the alteration in him, but he let them laugh, and little heeded them, for he was wise enough to know that nothing ever happened on this globe for good, at which some people did not have their fill of laughter in the outset.
He had no further intercourse with spirits, but lived upon the total abstinence principle ever afterwards.
And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well. If any man alive possessed the knowledge, may that be truly said of us, and all of us.
And so, as Tiny Tim observed,
God bless us, every one.
God rest him,